We can actually maybe bring this over here now. Maybe this should be over there then. How about that? And get the chat up here. Oh, maybe refresh that, refresh that, refresh that, refresh that, and stream manager that. So let's see. Twitch is up and running. YouTube looks to be up and running. Everybody knows their places. Off we go. All right. Here we go. Don't know if I would know if there are any viewers here. All right. So today we're going to investigate 2 issues with puzzles loading into SudokuPad, and the concerning part is that they look fine in the web app and they cause problems in SudokuPad, which is obviously not something we want. Okay, so this version looks fine. Let me open SudokuPad on my phone and compare. So if I sort by date, not progress, by date. So this one didn't show cages on my phone. It does now. Now that's weird. Now that's so strange. Ooh. The cages disappeared after I loaded another problematic puzzle. So the other problematic puzzle is this one. So let's open that in SudokuPad. And in fact, let's close this one. Let's open it. Yeah, in fact, it's one of those links it doesn't like to open. So if I open that via Firefox, that works. Yeah, so this is a resizing problem. No obvious errors. Ooh, backup path. No valid path found. Alright, now if I go back here and open this one, in fact now the cages have gone. Now if I go, have all cages gone. This shows cages. Excuse the spoilers. This has no cages. Now the cages are back. What? Where's the other puzzle? Where's this one? All right, well, we definitely know there's a problem with the sizing on this one. So, and the problem doesn't occur here. So let's start up with my local test. Hey, AC, good evening. How are you? I'm looking into some bug reports. Hey, Mark, maybe you can help me. I have an issue with this puzzle only on SudokuPad itself, not on the web app. So I want to see what caused... First of all, I want to see if my SudokuPad edition running in the browser also has the problem. And then the weird thing is, I have another puzzle which sometimes doesn't show the cages in SudokuPad. But here well, I'm guessing there's something in this puzzle maybe that breaks it. Let me check if the cage is visible on this one. Yeah, no particular errors in the console. All right, let's bring up SudokuPad in the browser for testing purposes. I think it's running actually. Man, I haven't done SudokuPad stuff in so long. Yeah, it's running. What port is this running for? Watch established app start. Why is this restarting so many times? It's a little odd, but it should be on 8,000. Let's restart it. 48,000. Here we go. Ah, that was odd. Okay. Word puzzle. So this is that one. Okay. So it does have the same resize issue. Let's try this one as well. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But it's done in the CTC editor, so it's a bit strange that it would have that issue. Okay. Yeah, you see, no cages are showing on this one. Okay. Well, let's have a look. So, render error. Okay, so I'm guessing there's some faulty data, or some data I'm not interpreting correctly. Because I was hoping that I could just adjust the data without, because pushing an update to SudokuPad is pretty tough. So if I can get, this is a puzzle that Bremster had posted. So if I can get him to, no, wait, this is the CTC one. This is the CTC one. This is so strange. Let me try something quickly here. Is that the ID? Yeah. I'm just going to load it into the CTC editor. .href. Right. So this is the puzzle in the CTC editor. Let's see if we can find something weird. So we have the regions per usual, nothing unusual there. 1, 2, 3, 4 cages. Then the special title cage. Then the special rules cage. Okay, so just title and rules. Let me see what the value is on this thing. Why is there an @ symbol here? Oh, okay, it just, I don't know, puts an @ symbol there. All right, so those look fine. Then we have a bunch of lines. It's probably this one, I suspect. No arrows. We have, these are the bulbs for the thermoses, no overlays, and that's it. So I strongly suspect it's this line that doesn't have any points in it. Let's try something. I'm gonna do this. I'm a bit rusty, actually, I have to say. That's the problem when you don't touch your code in too long. So if I look at SudokuPad storage, right? So in it, data, load data. So here, local storage dot keys dot items dot. Can I just do this? Nope. All right, let's just look into here. So they're stored by these IDs. Okay, fair enough. And the ID is, let's just pull that out here. Yeah. Let's get this out of here for a sec. There's no data here. There is no data. I think it's stored in here. That's just the progress. See, I forgot how I'm storing the data here. No. Yeah, okay, so application data is here. So let's put that in here. And what we're gonna do is JSON.parse and JSON.stringify, and then we'll just give it a nicer indenting. Now if I copy this, put that in here, okay, that makes more sense. No. No. Keeps making things smaller. Nope. I just want to collapse it. Come on. Come on. Go to tabs. Oh, okay. All right, so this is the thing. This thing is called toxic, I believe. No, challenge accepted. So it should be find accepted. Here we go. Challenge accepted. Puzzle data. Oh, I'm an idiot. It's not a... I'm an idiot. Obviously, this is the Fpuzzles puzzle, so it's not in my format. So we actually want to open this in Fpuzzles. All right, decode URI component. And that's no way is that the full ID. There's some A's at the end for sure. Okay. Load equals this. Go to the Fpuzzles. That'll get us to here. Huh. What it doesn't do is, it doesn't tell us anything weird going on. Okay. Let me try to get myself slightly less confused. So this is, okay. This is the one with the extra space. It's an Fpuzzles puzzle. It's this one, and this is the SudokuPad link. Okay. So here, that space is not being added, but in SudokuPad, which is this one. Also, it doesn't show up here in the right order in the list. Yeah. So in SudokuPad, it's rendered differently than in Engine. Does that mean it's doing something that I've changed in the engine since then? This is very odd. Very, very odd. So let's refresh this for a second. Framework.app.source puzzle. I think this is the CTC puzzle data that is getting generated from the Fpuzzles puzzle data before it's being loaded into the app. So let's see what we have. We have a couple of lines, nothing strange here. We've got our regions, nothing strange here. We've got two underlays, which are probably even and odd, yep. Then we have overlays, which are various colored areas. We have arrows. Another thing we can actually do is we can just poke at the SVG, right? So that's the cells area. So the SVG is obviously larger. It's not in the arrows, cell grids. So it's a cage. Oh, wait a second. What the heck? Killer cage. Oh my god, what's in here? Ah, custom style. Oh, shoot. Oh, no. Ooh, okay, I know what this is. So I've added a feature to add custom data as a cage with transparent colors. But SudokuPad doesn't know about this. So it renders that cage, and unfortunately Fpuzzles doesn't allow you to make a cage without cells, which is what I do for my own metadata. Ah, that's really painful. And even though you could remove the cells afterwards in the JSON, then the data would no longer be compatible with Fpuzzles. Ah, that's really painful. And it's not even invisible, it's just transparent colored. In fact, it's not transparent colored. The background box is white, so it overdraws the line. Because the code doesn't exist in the SudokuPad code base right now to ignore these cages. So my first instinct would be to tell him to put the cage, at least to put it on the left side. But the thing is, that line is going to be long enough to still overflow anyways. The other alternative would be to put line breaks in it. So if I, let's say, put... no. Wait. If I take a line break out of here, can I just paste that? Maybe paste another one here, and then maybe paste another one here, and then maybe paste another one here. The problem is, yeah, no, it won't re-render it. Because it's not just this, it's basically it creates a background box for the text. And in fact, the text element already has this width and height set, I guess. No, wait, no? Why is this still so long? 1 second, let me change the color of this. I make this black, right? Of course, it ignores the line breaks. It ignores... Wait, why does it ignore the line breaks? Let me see. SVG text line breaks. So SVG does not allow line breaks. It doesn't understand line breaks. Okay. I'm wondering if I can. I'm wondering if I can manipulate the Fpuzzles data myself. So let's take a look at this data packet here. Actually, even this version. Let's look at this version first. Right. So if I take this version, which is not URL encoded, which my local server browser should manage, no problem. Right. Step 1. Step 2, we want to decode that. So load fpuzzle.decompress puzzle. We should be able to do this. Right. And JSON.parse. Okay, so that gets us a bunch of JSON here. And the question now is, can I make our cage cell-free and then turn it back into Fpuzzles data? Now, obviously, then that link will no longer load into Fpuzzles. Fpuzzles will just barf on it. But that's okay. This is a CTC link. So what would we have to do is we would have to change killer cage. No. Cage. So cage 02. So we're going to do let let puzz equal, right? And puzz dot pages cage 2, nope, 2 dot cells dot length equals 0. And then we'll do Fpuzzles compress puzzle JSON.stringify puzz. All right, this is just a proof of concept. That's why I'm doing it manually. Okay. And now that should be a valid link. Right? Let's open the console in case it blows up so we know what happened. Okay. That works. And it should look the same, right? It should have the same magic sauce. And now we should be able to open this in SudokuPad. Let's close this first. I don't know. It opens one link and then it just doesn't work anymore. Some Chrome thing. And now it looks fine. And I think the coloring is also, well, the custom coloring won't work, right? Because it doesn't understand it. But it still works for CTC. Okay. So let me find the original link, which was, I believe, let's just find Bremster's video again. There it is. So it's this video. Nope. And so that's the link. TinyURL link. That's the expanded link. Right. And now the new link should work with this data package. Actually, no, not with this one, but with the URI encoded version. So encode URI component. Do that. So much manual fidgeting. Okay. Why is this shorter? Oh, because that's not the link. It's the link for this. It's actually longer than that. Quite a bit longer. All right, fair enough. And this should now work like that, and then like that. Once again, thanks Chrome for nothing. Yeah. Okay, so that works. And that's the TinyURL thing. All right. Challenge accepted. Is this? This is challenge accepted by pawns. Let me just create a quick URL for that. So that's the link, right? That's the fixed link. So we call it, what do we call it? Challenge accepted by pause. I'm just going to do it pause dash challenge accepted. So that should be the new URL. Let's try it. Why does it take so long? I don't know. I have to look into that. It's kind of sucky. Okay. Huh, so that's definitely something, and there's probably other ones that are similarly afflicted. All right, so that sorts out the challenge accepted link. What it doesn't explain is the cage is missing on this puzzle, on Toxic. So they're here the second time around. So if I close it and then open it again, it has both versions now. Okay. Well, let's keep them both in for reference. Now the cage isn't rendering again. Now it's back. It's back. So if I open this, does that affect the cages? It changes the styling. So there's something about my custom style system, I think. And in fact, that's what happens. It keeps the style of the previous cage when rendering the cages. And it only happens here because you can open one puzzle after the other. If you close the app in between, I think so. Okay. And that's why I should be able to replicate it in the browser version the same way, right? So if I open Toxic, yeah, you see there's no cage visible. If I refresh this now, the cages are there. But if I open, in fact, if I open it now, no, the cages are there. If I open this, it will apply the style of this cage. And then when I open this, the cages will disappear. But the cages will still be there. They will just have the styling, the last styling used by the other cage. So if I look at those cages, they will have that style applied. Okay. And that's actually a bug that probably exists in the main app as well. It's just in the main app, you're never in a situation where you load one puzzle after another in the same session. But let's say if I were to force a new puzzle load into the app at runtime. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Custom. Let me just. What was the data? Custom. Find custom. No. Custom style. Okay. Find custom style. Is that not in this code base? Okay. Let me just make sure I don't lose my work on the line editor. Yeah. Line editing handles. This is what we did yesterday evening. All right, switch to master. I don't think that code is yet in the editor branch. Yeah, I need to import that. How is that not in there yet? Very strange. Huh. Wait a second. Wait a second. So that gets renamed to custom size with a capital S. That's why I didn't find it. Okay. Whoop. So, invalid JSON imported metadata. Wait a second. But we don't do custom style stuff in SudokuPad. So what happens in SudokuPad then? I think, okay. Wait a second. So I think what's really happening in in SudokuPad is probably a mistake I've done many times, where as I'm loading, like I'm using object assign on sort of shared data and I'm changing the shared data. So I'm probably loading into the style into cage borders. That should actually be relatively easy to view, to visible, right? So svg renderer dot styles. If I just open that and look at cage borders, after rendering this, the last cage had all invisible properties. So I was wondering if I was maybe overwriting these styles. Black 1, so that's not transparent. Huh. What about here? Cage value. No, yeah, it's definitely been changed here. So because it understands the custom style, it's not affected. Or I think there's a fix related to that I have done since then. Let's see. SudokuPad puzzle script. So find styles dot cage style cage value. Yeah, this part. So Mark, if you ever want to get bit in the butt by JavaScript, pay attention to this sort of stuff. So render cage, right? This is the current code that works, and this is the older code that's currently in SudokuPad. And if you look at where was it? This part versus this part, I didn't fix it. I did not fix it. I'm assigning straight to this object. Basically what I need to do is I need to assign both of them to a blank object to create a new object with my updated information. So if I do this, this overwrites our default style. And if it happens earlier, if that cage didn't happen to be the last cage, it would actually hide all the other cages, not just the next cage on the next loading. I'm tempted to try to test it by moving the cage up in the list. The thing is, why isn't the style kind of broken here? Cage value here is not messed up, while here it's also, wait. Here it's not messed up. Wait a second, we're in the wrong puzzle. It's supposed to be this one, right? So if I look at cage values now, here, oh man, am I still, no, I'm looking at this one. So it's not messed up here. Now, if I load on this page rather than from the other page, is it also messed up or not messed up? No, you see it's updated, but right now when I look at these, they look the same. This is SudokuPad, and this is the web app. And if I compare these two pieces, they look identical. So maybe there's something else that's changed elsewhere. Let's output this here. And I have to do it like this, otherwise the whole async logging thing is gonna make a mess of things for us. So this is both of them now updated. And that means this one okay. Render cage. Cage values on. Ah, wait a second. Is it this part? Cage value. I'm wondering if there's something else going on actually. I think in the new code here, that cage never makes it into the renderer. Because, wait. Because I think I'm bailing out earlier. So this will not render that many cages. So if I look at, it would still be in the data. And that's why it's kind of a pain in the butt to show it. But basically, when I'm parsing the data, wait a second. Yeah, I know what I can look at. Framework app.puzzle.current puzzle. So that's the internal representation. So in the internal representation, these cages do not include that one because it was pulled out as metadata. So we have 30 cages here. And if we look at the SudokuPad code base, you can immediately see we have 31 cages. So it doesn't actually do it correctly. It just happens to not be a problem because it pulls out this metadata earlier, while in SudokuPad it doesn't exclude that metadata. Okay, so that immediately tells me a couple of things. First of all, it's definitely something we want to fix in the code base. I don't think I need to worry about really releasing SudokuPad just for this fix because it's easily, people might not even notice. As long as they don't open this puzzle and then another one after the other, it won't actually be a problem. And this puzzle, this specific one, I can actually fix in the link data. And Bramster is the only one using that kind of custom rendering information right now. And then the fix for this is basically so the first thing we need to do is not just fix this here, but we actually want to find everything that does this. And it's just the only place where where it's getting done like that. Except I'm pretty sure it does it here as well with the cage style. And the problem is, even if I clone it here, let's say if I do something like this, unless it's a deep clone, this will actually override it again. I want a fast, deep clone, and I don't want to have to write it myself. And unfortunately, it's not good enough to do a shallow clone. Because the border here is still a complex object, and it's still by reference. So if I just do a shallow clone, it would still mess all these up. I mean, there must be a true. I mean, I know I can just JSON stringify it, and I can obviously also iteratively clone the children and all that stuff. Do I really have to do this? If object is an object is can get detect for simple self-references. Yeah. That's kind of the complex version of it. Structured clone. Global structured clone method creates a deep... Okay, I didn't even know this existed. Method also transfer of the original value will be transferred rather than cloned to the new object. Transferred objects are detected from the original object and attached to the new object. Yeah, they're no longer accessible in the original object. Okay. How universal is this thing? Wow, that sounds pretty recent. What version are we in? 98 sounds really recent. 99. That's way too recent for me. The problem is these kind of polyfills can be quite large. These can be very large. Structured, deep clone, JavaScript. Simple, deep clone. What's the simplest? Does this work? No, that's for arrays. That's fine. Primitive arrays only. I think I'm just going to stay with that. It's safe, and for these small objects, the cost shouldn't be too great. Because this isn't enough. Because the moment I do this, no, that works actually. The problem is in our render cage version. Now, render cage version, we're afterwards doing a complex update of various properties of the border thing. Unless I kind of manually do these. Border attribute. Ah, wait a second. But I don't need to update cage style here. Ah, in fact, we're not changing cage style at all. We're not assigning to it. So if I do this, that should be enough. So this basically means take an empty object, merge in all the styles from border, and then overwrite them with these. And then if I do the same thing with this, that should fix all the property leak issues from one cage to the next. Now the question is, should I fix this as well, even though it's not an issue anymore because the metadata gets removed? The thing is, in the future, if I do something, if I add new data, I'm gonna have the same problem again. It's almost like I should detect an invisible content and then not render the element at all. Or at the very least, limit the size of the element to the size of the SVG. This is a tricky one. I guess the real problem here is that the renderer, yeah, a cage should never extend outside of the thing, outside of its own space, right? So we have a cage made out of 3 elements, right? It's the path that makes up the cage, and then the text and a rectangle as the background to the text. And the rectangle and text have their sizes calculated inside this. render text. Done. Let me save that code first. Yeah, I'm gonna bump the minor version on that. No, the patch version. And what shall we call this? Fix cage style spill overflow. It's kind of a modern version of a buffer overflow, really. Which is kind of funny. All right. So the width is set where? Yeah. You just mess up my collapsing. Well, render text shouldn't be too hard to find. Here we go. Render text. The width and height are calculated where? They're not calculated, they're passed in. So if I do render cage, render text, text options, there is no width and height. So let's actually do this in the SudokuPad codebase for a second. I'm not gonna submit to this. The fixes go into the main codebase and then they get transferred. But I just want to test if this is the issue. So first of all, tell me what's the incoming data. Where's my SudokuPad? Here we go. We have render cage also outputting. Stop it. Come on. There we go. So render text bx where's that long piece of text that you're supposedly rendering? Text anchor background color text. Here we go. This whole thing, right? Yeah, so this doesn't have any width and height. It doesn't have width and height, so text offset X, text offset Y. It calculates it. Okay. So there's a couple of things to consider here. Basically, one of the problems is, in some cases, you want to pass in width and height because it centers the text on that basis. Here, the text starts on the left edge. Let me override the colors here. So we're gonna change fill to be, some kind of magenta at, partial transparency. And we're gonna change the stroke to be, we're going to make it black at a very mild transparency, something like that, just to visualize where everything is, right? So we have the text here. Now, because I'm thinking I could pass in, I don't want to pass in a width because the cage doesn't generally want to calculate the width, but I do want to calculate, I do want to pass in a maximum width. And that's something we're not currently supporting, right? Now I could pass in the width myself, so I could calculate the width the same way I'm doing here. So I'm basically doing this and passing this in as width and height. The problem is I don't have the bounding box available at this point, right? Okay. And then the maximum width. I think one cell should, yeah. I don't want to limit setters to my own sort of ideas, because a setter might want to make a 3x3 cage and have a line of text across the first 3 cells, right? So I think calculating the width at that point is actually non-trivial. So a trivial substitute would be the width of the bounding box of the cage, which of course could look weird if there's like a U shape, right? So if the cage is, let me get an example. If the cage looks like this, then you don't want this to overlap those 2 cells in the middle, right? The text. Let me experimentally just pass in a width of 1 cell. So svg renderer dot cell size. What do you think about this, by the way, Mark? How would you solve this problem? All right, so it doesn't. Did it pass in the width? I don't see it being output here. Target, center, width and height. Width and height. Render text, target, render text. What is going on here? I don't see this. I think the SudokuPad development server is a bit slow, yeah. It's fractions of cell. Wait, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So here now we're supposedly having a width of 64 and a height of 0.2. Why do I have a feeling that a text element doesn't have a width and height? It seems to ignore that. SVG text. What are the property of a text element? SVG text width. Maybe text doesn't have a width and height, and I'm passing all that stuff in there for nothing. That would be kind of silly and crazy and stupid, but also very, very possible. Let's specify the width of space into which the text will draw. Does not extend farther than that distance. The method of methods. So I'm starting to feel that width and height are not properties of text. Text. Okay, attributes x, y. Use text element. Delta y. Rotate it. How the text is structure compressed to fit the width defined by the text length attribute. So text length is the only attribute. So width and height is not. Oh my god. Okay. The text renderer is completely garbage and it's kind of broken. And I don't think I can even pass text length in there because it doesn't even. I don't know. It does take arbitrary objects. So I should be able to pass in text length. Text anchor. Text. Oh wait, I forget that the render is a bit slow. Yeah, so I can pass in text length. Why does it look... Does it wrap the text? Or oh man, does it just squish the I think it just squishes the letters together. That would be stupid and hilarious and kind of on brand for CSS and SVG. Yeah, I think that's what's happening. It just kind of squishes them. Wow. All right, but it sort of kind of works. Now, do we know what the boundaries of our cage are? We can get them, I think. I'm almost tempted to do it. So, cage value RC. RC. So and cells. So the idea would basically be to move right from RC while that RC value is still inside the cell's array. And in this case, obviously, there would only be one. And the RC value of cage value is cage value RC99. Okay. So basically, what we would have to do is I mean, we are using RC, so let's not mess with those. So let's say that R1 equals R, C1 equals C. All right, and then while I hate doing while loops, I'm gonna just do this for I equals 0, I plus I smaller than 5, I plus plus. Let's just do this. Because it's not invisible per se, and it's not just the text itself, right? So, okay, there's a couple of levels to it, right? First of all, I don't really, I have different versions of code right now, right? So the version that's on the web app understands this metadata and removes it completely from the structure, so no problem. But this is going to be a problem again in the future whenever I create sort of forward incompatible data changes, right? So the hidden cages in CTC data have no cells in them, so it's never been a problem. So it already knows how to handle that. But Fpuzzles doesn't let you make a cage without cells, so I have to create a real cell, and I'm kind of cheating by giving the text a transparent color. Now, it's not technically invisible, right? Because text gets a background box, so the background box would be visible. And a setter might want to use that effect. So it's not something I want to kind of break and do some magic behavior and check if the alpha of the text is 0 or whatever, right? So there's no such thing as invisible text. There's text that is visible, just happens to have an alpha of 0, and that happens to render as invisible, right? So I want to have a more generic solution to this. So I'm thinking that it is reasonable to say that text should never exceed, cage text should never exceed the cage, right? At worst, it should maybe line break or something like that, right? But I think it's reasonable to expect a setter, if they have a special case where they need text that exceeds the cage, they probably shouldn't use a cage value. They probably should just place a piece of cosmetic text. So what I'm thinking now as a sort of universal solution to avoid this problem would be to clip the text within the the cage itself. Now, ideally, it shouldn't just clip to the bounding box of the cage, but to the cell space available, right? So in my example before, if the cage has some kind of U shape, it should clip to this line. It shouldn't stretch across the thing. Although it would be okay to do so for the purposes of not breaking the puzzle altogether, right? So right now, what I'm thinking of to do, instead of kind of doing some complex mathematics, I'm just going to do it cell by cell rather than based on the boundary line, the boundary polygon, right? Instead of doing polygon maths, I'm just going to start at the cell where the text is, right? And then I'm going to increment it one by one and just check if it's within the oops, actually I want to make a copy of this first. Check if it's within the area of cells available to this cage. And I'm just going to very roughly see one, and then I'm just going to do cells dot find, and the cell has a row and column property, right? So row call, where row equals R1 and call equals C1. And when I find such a cell, it's not equal undefined, because I don't want to actually output the cell. And then after that, I want to increment the column, right? Because I'm moving to the right. All right, and now I have to wait for the server to restart, which takes a moment. And it blows up where? Something got lost in translation here. Yeah, I think that's okay. Right. So since this cage only contains one cell, it's true for the first cell, then false, 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 right? So ideally, this is actually a while loop. And we're only incrementing one of these, right? So while R1 is smaller than some arbitrary large thing, so it doesn't go on forever, while smaller than 9999, let's say, or I don't know, 1000 by 1000 Sudoku, is that the number of cells in the array? I don't know, is there a reasonable limit to set on this? Like right now it seems natural to say, oh, maximum iteration. Or should we just rely on the algorithm being correct? Yeah, I think we can rely on the algorithm to be correct. So while cells.find row column is not equal to undefined, increment column. All right. And then here we can see how many times we incremented. Basically. So if we subtract column from C1 and add 1, oh dear. So if we do this minus C plus 1, that should give us the number of cells we managed to get across without 4 grid size. I don't think I have access to the grid size at this point. Grid size is a bit of an arbitrary thing. What I could do is for width of the SVG element. The problem is, right, we're still drawing, so we're actually modifying the size of the SVG as we're going along, right? And elements can be outside the grid, so it's not obvious how big the grid is. Because we're going into negative, you know, it could, like, as this shows, you know, until we actually draw the text, we don't actually know how large the image could be. And we don't know if something we draw later might enlarge the image again, right? So we're still figuring out how big the thing is. But I think the algorithm, is bulletproof like this, because there's only so many cells in there, and we'll eventually have looped through all of them, right? And they're not always going to return true. It's a limited number of cells that will be in that array. It's more like I feel uncomfortable when I have unbound while loops in my code. It always makes me a little nervous. So this, okay, so this gives us 1. So this says, okay, we have 1 cell across. So then we can say let val size, let max val size equals this, right? And we need that size at which point do we need that size? Here. Yeah, I guess here's fine. Yeah, and I think we can just pass this as text size, as text length, right? And that's the number of cells. And we're gonna make a minimum of 1. So minimum of 1. Don't know why, but I feel like that might be important if that ever comes back as 0. Multiplied by the size of a cell. Wait for all the freaking lag in my stupid... And that should be it. And before I rely on this too much, this text length thing, how useful is this? Internet Explorer is 11. Okay, I think that's... When it says yes instead of version number, that means it goes pretty far back. There was something about how the shrinking happens. Text length attribute, user ensure. By the length adjust attribute, length adjust. You can use this attribute with the following SVG elements. Length adjust. Using spacing and glyphs. Stretched, using spacing only, spacing and glyphs. I think this last one is what we need. Spacing and glyphs. Length adjust. Spacing and glyphs. Those are the only values, huh? Why wouldn't length adjust, spacing and glyphs be the default? Length adjust. I don't actually like putting this into the DOM, because if there's a lot of cells, that's a lot of rubbish in the DOM. I might have to put that in the CSS. Ugh. It doesn't really help too much when the text is that ridiculously long. Okay. Let's see if we can put this into the CSS. Find text. Text. Info overlay text. Info overlay hint. Is there some IDE or tool for CSS where it can say, hey, give me all the styles that apply to text elements? We have rects. I want everything that says text in the label, not text in a property. SVG cell error. Do we have a class on this thing? No, it's just style field text font. I don't know if there's actually a problem putting the properties in here. Find cell dash grid. Cell grid. SVG. SVG render. SVG. Or SVG timeline. SVG. There's something that said rect. Correct. Feature crop key. Well, this is all the stuff on the cell selection. Yeah, this stuff is actually kind of old now. Cell grid. Dot cell board grid SVG board. Let's just put this in here. Actually, let's make sure this applies only to our SVG renderer here. Isn't there something? Board SVG. Board SVG timeline. Fine. Board SVG. Nope. Dot board SVG. Probably not what we're imagining. So dot board SVG. Text. Length adjust. Spacing and glyphs. Okay. Does that not work? Why is that not allowed? Unknown property name. Huh. Length adjust unknown property name. That's a little weird. Is that property maybe not well supported? I thought this one was fine too. Is this about length adjust? What's going on here? Hey, Andy. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're not talking about cage sums or whatnot. We're talking about the whole point of this tool is to support creative new ways of doing things, right? Including non-standard ways. So people might write a piece of text in there, you know, the murderer is 2 cells up, you know, and I don't want to prohibit that. But that won't work if it's supposed to be a phrase, right? Or if it's maybe it's some Unicode string that represents a snake climbing over a train. I don't know. A bit sore throat because I've talking too much this morning to my dad. All right, let's see. Text adjust, length adjust. So length adjust. So can we not apply length adjust as an SVG property? Well, if it's not possible, screw it, right? I'll just put it in the thingamajig here. It is length adjust, right? Not text adjust or something. Length adjust. SVG text length adjust CSS unknown property. Could be that there's a different CSS name. Fit text in a box. Right length. What? Length adjust unfortunate but not for stretching. Yeah, I mean, really not worth worrying about too much. Get rid of that. All right. Let me just have a look at the diff here. So we don't want that change at all if we can avoid it. So what are we doing here now? What do you mean by justify the text? Center it? Oh, it will grow it? Is that what you're trying to say? Is it going to spread out the letters? It is. God damn it. Seriously? Text length min name max. This seems like such a stupid, obvious thing. Yeah, it looks like... Yeah, it's already screwed around up. Hey. Text length apply conditionally. Okay. So that makes me almost feel like we want a maximum width here instead. Which is kind of crazy that I have to implement something like this myself. So over here, so the text object here. The problem is there doesn't seem to be a way of specifying the size for a text object in any way. Like, I have to create a second thing and clip the text object. So I'm creating the text object, so I can easily take the max width and apply it to the underlying background element, right? But the text itself, there doesn't seem to be a way except for max length, which I would have to... First, I would have to basically check if it goes beyond... well, I guess I have to do that, hey. There. Okay, alright. Alright. So, we're rendering a text element here. Then we'll get the bounding box for this text element. Then we check if max width and bbox.width. There's something buzzing around front of my face. Bounding box max width is greater than max width. Then text dot set attribute dot text length equals max width, and that's obvious. No, that's obviously not how any of that works. Right? This is more like it. And now we can do length adjust. This is so backwards. So much code and extra bits and pieces for something that you'd think a styling language of all things should do for us, eh? It just doesn't seem necessary. And then we have to refresh our bounding box, I believe. So we can do and we can do this probably. All right, max width, yada, 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 yada. And then this should adjust accordingly. Yeah, so now the 22 isn't stretched, but this is contained. So that's one way of doing it. Does feel a little dirty. Is there something I could do more easily here? What if I do something like... What if I replace this with this? And then this with this? And then I have something like an I 0 plus I. And then this is our I over here. And then this would be +3. I think I did that. +1, +3. I think I did that just to get a minimum size going here. What if I do that? Will that do the thing that I wanted to do? Looks like it. So for this one, the I came out as 3 and here it came out as 1. Okay. So that looks... and we don't need that anymore. Because C1 no longer exists. And max width. Oh, wait, but here max width comes out as... Oh, max, not min. Alright, well, I don't think it had updated yet. Oh, Mark, what are you saying? At first, use the first 8 characters. Yeah, just use the first unit. Watch out for text length. Look at the other... Yeah, okay, sorry. I saw that already. So now this 22 cage has a max width of 192, which is those 3 cells, which is exactly what we expect. But because it is less than the 192 large, it doesn't shrink it. Now this one ends up with a width larger than 64, and it gets shrunk to 64. The only thing I don't like about it is that it hits the far side of the cage, even though it doesn't start exactly there. So the X and Y are calculated as a little differently. So we're adjusting the width rather than the ending of it. Let me think. Text offset 0, number width, center 1 plus cell size. Center, the center, yeah, because we're calculating it by center, so we need to subtract. Yeah, we basically need to subtract this. Like that. Like that. No, subtract. because we don't want to go over the outer edge of the thing. And it's not that one, it's that one, because we're doing columns, not rows. Okay, and then I'm going to move that over to here. Don't like having too many changes in the code if I can avoid it. So now this, the spacing here should still make it stop at the right spot. So this looks accurate. Let's have a quick look at the diff. So we've added, well, we've changed that. Okay, that's fine. We've added a comma. Oh, yeah, so we can get rid of this, I think. This forced fill and the forced stroke up here. Like this. We added the max width. We changed the word to let. That's fine. I don't know if we should do it. Let's not change anything that's not relevant. So that should not be changed. If I want to do a refactor and just change all the lets to var, I should do that separately. In fact, even this, should this just stay? Whoops. So that needs to come out of there. Ah, wait, no, it does. Yeah, it needs to come out of there because we might have to adjust the text element even if there's no background here. Okay. And this, I think, is actually wrong. I think this I've seen a problem with that where we don't get a background when we need one. This used to have a comma apparently. So I don't want to have any diffs in there when there shouldn't be any. Shouldn't be a blank line here. We probably don't need this. Okay. Okay. And we don't need that. And that should fix it. Now, it'll still have a visual glitch there. So there's something to be said of skipping the background if the text is transparent. But then we're back to the problem where what we said earlier is like, do we want the background to not overflow the cell edge? And the other question is, do we want to add a bit of a fudge factor? One sec. If we did it without the fudge factor, because the I is the width here, but we don't want the width. We want this plus that. No, we don't want this plus that. We want this plus that minus center this, right? Which by subtracting that we do. But it's tempting to subtract a little more as a margin. If I subtract twice that, would that won't make enough of a difference? If I subtract another 0, I mean 0.1 is a tenth of a cell. That's a lot. I mean it's like 3 pixels, so it's like a 0.05. But subtracting twice that should have done that. 0.5, 0.3. That does it as well? I feel like I can just about see it there. So why didn't subtracting 2 times that do the trick? Yeah, now I can see it. Okay, so subtracting 2 times that should have done the trick. Unless, yeah, probably I didn't refresh on the right moment. In the right moment, okay. So that should fix that issue. I think I'm gonna do that as a minor. Ah, wait, no. This gotta be careful. This is actually in on SudokuPad. That's not where we want to make this kind of change. So we got to make that change here. So we're in render cage. What exactly? So we have a max width now. And the max width is calculated here. Like that. Right, I think that's the only change in render cage. And then in render text, we've moved the bounding box calculation underneath var text element here. We've injected a minimum width property after height here. I don't think we touched anything there. And then we've applied that here, updated the bounding box, and adjusted the text length there. And I think that's it, right? Bounding box. Oh, and remove the bounding box from here. Okay, so if I look at CTC app now with that. Okay. And now refresh this. So the best way of testing this now would be to remove the code that removes that metadata cage. Not resize. Puzzle. And somewhere here it's parsing the metadata. I need to reorganize this code so badly. Metadata. Struct puzzle metadata. I think this is already done at this point. I think the metadata that cage already gets removed in the import code. I believe. No, there it is. There it is. Cells are... Is the cage not here anymore? So here the cage is already gone. Okay. So where are we removing that? Not here, not here, not here, not here. Not here. Cages. 7. Cage.cells. Wait, cell, yeah. So cells have already been removed here. Okay. Can't believe I'm doing this. I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna put the cells back in so I then can check if the other code works. And then I'm gonna put it back again here. Undo the undo. No, I'm looking for this one. Go away. So load in the unminified code. Find cages. Parse metadata. Cages, puzzle cages, yada yada yada. Index of value metadata. Default val, meta default func. Cages or puzzle cages push. Apply default meta. Cages default solution. Killer cage. Extra region. Cage. If cage value is string, delete cells. Okay, so that's the bit that deletes the cells. have to be careful, because this is also one of those magic things. If in the future somebody wants to write text like that in a cage that they actually want to display, it will blow up. Okay. No. It is not there. Well, it is there. Ah, wait, but maybe it's just working, right? This is basically what we want to see if it's working, so maybe it's just working. It's tricky to test stuff like this. Okay, it looks like... yeah, there it is. And the background... there we go. All right, and everything else works fine. All right, time to put that to bed. So discard that and discard that and bump. That's just going to be a minor bump because that could have potential for conflicts. We want to actually change that. That's on my to-do list to fix that script. All right. So we did max apply max width for cage or cage text. Yeah, this only applies to cages because the max width calculation actually happens in the cage code. So it does not apply to text rendered any other way. But of course, max width can get passed in. All right. Cool. Let me let Bramster quickly know about the new URL link for his puzzle. Over here. I'm just gonna let him know. I think we're in code Hangout 31, right? 32. Okay, so that fixes both of those issues. Ultimately, I need to just update SudokuPad going forward. That's the important part. Otherwise, I'm going to get more and more of these kind of issues. But I'm glad I poked at it a little bit. Let's keep this one open for testing. All right, so this is all sorted. Let's switch back to the editor code. Let's close a million windows here. Otherwise, eventually something is going to give. Don't need that. Don't need that. We don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Gosh, I open Windows so fast. So fast. All right. Finally, something more interesting, I hope. Just checking some notifications. All right. By the way, if you guys are sending me messages in some chat window or other, and I don't notice them right away, you know, try the other ones as well. I kind of circle around and kind of try to keep an eye on all of them. Okay, so this is what I got to yesterday. Yesterday I wanted to update the line tool to get back to being actually able to edit lines, and that's kind of a major upgrade compared to the other setting tools. So right now I wanted to visualize a grid. I have my handles, which lets me select points, and that's how far I got yesterday. And let's see on a new puzzle like this one. I guess that should work as well. Yeah, and it should switch to the grid, and if I go to here, the grid should come off, and so on. And even to kind of work on the concept of a specific tool having access to its own sort of editing visualizations. So what we had here, so actually, okay, so first of all, we want to be able to move. So as I'm pressing down, I want to be able to move the handle. So I can either use, so I can either do kind of a point selection thing and use the drag mechanisms, or I do my own handling of handle input up, down, and move, and all that stuff. So let's have let's have a look of how this is getting forwarded, this event, because I'm thinking I'm doing it more or less manually right now. Yeah, so we kind of manually forwarding these. I mean, I think I should just do it at this level and not bother with the higher level events from the puzzle engine. Just keep it simple and truck on, you know. And then have an input up. And this, let's update all of these. Like that. Although that sometimes makes the code a little less intuitive to read. Okay. And handle input up. And now here, that should make a difference, right? Cell is not defined. Ah, yes. Boom. All right. And now, in the line component, we have handle input move, sure. But we also want handle input down and handle input up. And handle input down. So nothing here until I select the line. Input down, up, down, up. Okay. Now the handle input move gets us a selected point. So let's simplify this code a bit. So what's our criteria right now for selecting a point? So we have a distance. So it needs to be less than 0.3. So the points come from here. Right. Closest index. So we can either have a function that does this part or this whole thing. And then the index calculation would happen afterwards. I think getting the closest point would be just a general helpful function to have, I think. So if I do this, go to the top. So const rc, so dist to line, dist to path. What does dist to path do compared to dist to line? Ah, okay, area of lines, sure. So rc point on line. So we want rc actually we just, yeah, point is fine. Point on path. This line could be mistaken as a straight line. And then max dist equals 0.3. And I guess this just doesn't care which coordinates, right? Which coordinate system it's in. So this should be a fairly generic function. And we can more or less just swap that in here, right? So instead of points, it comes path, 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 p. We probably want to, you know, kind of give this some sort of unique identity. So this becomes p0, that becomes p, and then and this can just be huge, right? I mean, this is almost, well, it almost doesn't matter. So then we're just gonna say return closest disk smaller than max disk distance. So if we're smaller or equal to the maximum distance, then we're returning the closest point. Else we're going to return undefined, basically. And we don't do that. And it doesn't even, it's not RC. Closest point on path, right? So here, I'm gonna output this. Closest P, closest P. And we're gonna put that in front, just for the sake of it. And then we're gonna do closest point on path at CP2. And we're gonna pass in, what are we starting with? RC props.waypoints, right? And 0.3. And then we're gonna output that. Like that. And then we're going to do something like this. And then idx2 point cp2. Let's see what that looks like. So they are the same. True, 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 true. True. CP2 equals closest P. Okay, it's false here because CP2 is undefined, but the indexes are true. And that's the thing that matters, right? So if we get rid of all of these, what's left over, the closest index, should always be true. Yeah. Always true. Different paths, always true. So this code is completely unnecessary now. And we can just do this. Well, we can do this, this, nope. This, 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 and that. Sweet. Don't know if we're using RC for anything else. Probably, yeah, whatever. So, and I broke it. Points undefined. Points index off. Points. Points. Okay, so now we can replicate this down here. So when I'm pressing down, I can do all of this here, like that. Do I need the CS here? I only need down there, fine. So input down. Right, so select this, down, down, undefined, down, undefined, closest point. Okay, so we get a closest point here. So when we're tapping down, we basically, there's two things that are going to happen. We're basically going to start a timer to detect long presses. And we're going to stop the timer when we start moving the mouse. And when we start moving the mouse, we're going to move the point. Now the question is, do we want to ratchet the point to the grid? I think for now, yes, we will. And then later on, we can always do like a fine adjust, like a shift key. And then ideally what we do is we just make the grid finer. So if we're going down, so if closest P, then this dot drag point equals closest P, right? And then we'll do the same thing down here. Feels like a lot of stuff we're doing here. Point handles, props. Props. What if I do this? It doesn't change too much. Do we have RC to array? I think we do. Find dot to array, RC to array. Okay. So we have RC to air of this stuff, and then that can just be RC. All right. Input pause. Put pause as pause. X, Y. Fair enough. 3 lines of basically just variables. Whoops. I actually here we don't need to do this. I think what we can do if is just equals undefined. Right. So then when we're moving, before we do all of this down here, and I think we can input RC. Are we using input RC here? No. Just gonna do this, get rid of that. Before we do all of this, at this point, we're going to say if this dot drag point so there's a couple of things here. Well, let's output this for a sec. So we have the drag point. Then we have the mouse position, which is this RC value. But then I also want a grid rasterized version of those. So get draw RC, I believe, would be that. Fuzz.x.y. Cell diff. So we use the global cell diff value. Target RC. Get draw RC. Let's make this more generic. Get draw. Get grid pause, and this is going to be taken out of an array, and it's going to return this as an array. So it's just going to be x, y. I think the reason I did it like this was that I could just pass the input position in. I think I'm gonna reuse drawC, and I'm just gonna return this as an array. So probably what I'm gonna do is pull the R and C out of there. And then just gonna return this here. Return this array. R, C. And that's it. Can maybe squeeze this into a line. All right. Ooh, okay. What do we get here? So pause gets us an X and a Y. 75. So we're definitely looking at this guy here. Yep, XRC2. That's an object. My god, we're going from XY to RC to array. Can you spell inconsistency without Sven? I don't think you can. Drag point. The thing is, do we want to visualize that something is happening even when you haven't actually moved the point yet? So I'm also realizing if the object is smaller than our thing, I'd like to indicate that we're dragging it, but I also would like to indicate that we're rastering it. Now, ideally, there would be some sort of... yeah, you see, I can't even drag it to that. I mean, I think I can once the rounding kicks in. All right, so the drag point is off the path array. The point handles. We're iterating through the point handles. And we're recalculating them from the path data here. So updating the path data should be enough. So if we do let's start drag point. Is there an object? Is there an array assign? Is there something like an array assign in JavaScript? JavaScript array assign, simply similar to object assign. Using that, I proposed. No, I'm not gonna worry about this. I'm not gonna. I mean, I can probably do it with a prototype function call. No, but the spread operator won't assign it. It will create new variables, right? But I cannot say I have an array, a 2-element array, and I want to assign this other 2-element array to the. I don't want to, you know, I want to assign all the values from one array to the values of the other array, right? So I'm just going to do it manually. I mean, obviously, this is super trivial and I shouldn't even think about it. But I'm so used to using object assign. So if I do this now, will this start moving the points? It will start moving this, interestingly enough. Oh, because we're not re-rendering the line itself. Okay. Well, now it's time to remind ourselves how we did re-rendering of the line previously. So when we were moving the line, did we just call render path and that's it? Delete last point. We didn't actually have point moving, we had point adding. So we're just calling render path. And right now we have no render path. Right. I guess we can just render path. Because we don't actually need to re-render the whole thing, right? I mean, we could also run it through the update props here. And then have update props be smart enough to re-render the path. Because update props is where the smartness about changing attributes is, right? So we could do something like, of course, update props doesn't lend itself really well for updating complex structures. But if we do this, just as an for instance, what happens? So select this, grab this, drag it. We're calling waypoints is not defined. Waypoints is not defined. So we changed it to be called path. Fine. Fine, be that way. So now it wants to update waypoints. So then we should be able to just do this, right? We'll just assume waypoints. Props.waypoints equals let's see. Is that just gonna be the array? No, but maybe. Maybe. Drag point, update props, waypoint. Sure. And that's why I want to be able to assign them rather than just assigning the whole array, because later on we'll have a reference to the wrong array. So here I'm going to have to literally iterate over it now. So is there really no array assign? I don't know how I would use the spread operator in this case. I just want to assign all elements from one array. I mean, object assign might even work, but not for the right reasons. Assign array elements to other array without recreating a new array. Something like that. Today's Thursday. Dog left the office. Does that mean I need to cut the stream short soon? Don't remember if I was told. I probably was told. I'm always told. I just don't remember. Copying an array of object. Copy elements of an array to another array. Array. I mean, I guess I have to do length 0 and then push. Ah, I can spread into push. So what I can do is I can do this. Dot length equals 0. Dot push. Update val. And then render path line points. Line points. You know what? I'm gonna use const here. It'll avoid me making a mistake here. That I don't accidentally assign it. So I should now be elements dot path. Yeah, something like that. Waypoints map to RC. True. Not sure what the true is for. RC to path data. What's the true for? Rounded. Rounded to the 10th. Yeah, that's fine. It's fine. So if I do this and now, not happy. Length.push is not a function. Well, that's not surprising. But the spread operator, I guess, was partially the right answer. Is not iterable. Okay. So, wait, no. Yeah, let's do this. Update val, waypoints before, and then waypoints after. All right? So, first drag, what do we get? Waypoints. We have update val, waypoints that push update val. So that did not work. And the reason that didn't work is because we are setting the length to 0 just as we're trying to put it in there. Can I do it with splice? This is annoying. I could probably do it with splice. The other thing, okay, so there's a couple of things I can do. I can clone the update val array in here. I can clone it on the outside. I can probably use splice. I can just loop over the elements, stick them in there, and then afterwards set the length to update val. So if I do that, right, if I say waypoints.length equals update.length, and then I do for let I equals 0, I smaller than len equals smaller than len I plus plus, and then I can just say I equals update val I. So if I do that, that should work. And that should not be destructive. And it completely destroys everything. Okay, let's look at the first movement. We went from these waypoints coordinates to these. Huh. Huh. Okay. Ah, wait, no, they're already... Why did I do this? They're already an array. I think the line points data was different. Ah, here we go. Now, does it snap? It seems to snap at a finer resolution. Like, it seems to have a half step between the cell divisions. That's really odd. Why would that happen? Why would that happen? Huh. Why would that happen? 4.5 drag point. So we have drag point, then we have RC, then we have get raw RC, get draw RC. Oh, because we're not... Something is snapping, but I think it's snapping to that division by 10 thing. I don't even know why I'm doing that. That's terrible. Why am I doing that? What is she doing? 1/10 of a cell. Well, I guess I just don't do that. Okay, anyway, so we've got that working. So instead of RC, we need to use this. Same problem. I'm just gonna quickly look into the splicey thing. MDN splice. I always have to look it up. Yeah, and it's a different rounding. I don't want to use that rounding. I have my cell divisions rounding, right? I don't know why I ever thought that rounding to 1/10 of a cell. It probably was supposed to be rounding to 1/10 of a pixel. So I only have one decimal in the SVG, but because here this is, wait a sec, my brain is a bit broken. RC to path data. That is outputting yeah, it's rounding it to 1/10 of a cell here. That is so strange. Why would I ever do that? Be very careful that I don't break it, like remove it when it needs to be there, and that I don't use it when I don't mean to use it. But now what we need to do is we need to figure out if I can use splice the way I think I can do it. I'm removing existing elements and or adding new elements, right? So if I tell it to splice at the start, right? So if we go here and I'm going to tell it to splice at element 0, starting from the start, then I tell it how many, all of them. Is there some delete count that implies all of them? Elements from start. If delete count is omitted or if its value is equal or to or longer than array length, That is, if it is equal to or greater than the number of elements left in the area starting at start, then all the elements from start to the end of the area will be deleted. However, it must not be omitted if there are any item 1 parameters. So drag point.length. It's still verbose, isn't it? And then this, right? But that should do the trick in one line. So we get draw RC, drag point. Ah, because I hadn't actually updated yet. So I need to find where it finally switched. Drag point 5.5 and then drag point gets updated to this. Okay, so that works. That's basically what I want. So we can drag the points, it snaps to the cell divisions. You can have up to 3 lines next to each other in a single cell. Even though this line does not look like it's passing through these points. The line thickness, what the heck? In the center one, it does. In the outer edge as well. But here, where the line is versus where the circles are centered, what the heck? You see this, right? Maybe you don't actually. The line is not aligned with the dots, while the circle is definitely aligned with the dots. And the center of the circle and the positions of the line points are identical. And X and Y seems to have the same weird offset. In fact, it goes to the right and down. It's almost as if the line thickness goes to the left, to the right and down. Does that make sense? Do I have to manually offset these lines by their own thickness? That doesn't sound right. Or is this another weird roundy thing? Let's see. So the last movement I did here was to these quarter values, right? No. It's a quarter value and then it gets rounded. It gets multiplied by the cell size and then rounded in a weird way. Is that the problem? Let me clear this for a second. Let me find a different path to manipulate. This one. So I moved it up here. Now this path only has two points, right? So row, column. So the column is 0.75. 0.75 times cell size is 64. That gets us 48. But we don't have a 48 here. We have a... Okay, let's move this one as well. So they're both 51.2. But 0.75 times 64 is not 51.2. So something is a little weird here. So render line. I mean, it's possible that we have weird offsets here, but I don't see anything strange here. It seems like a straight up mapping of the waypoints. And in fact, we are updating it ourselves right here. Yeah, we're calculating these points like a champ. All right. Why do I always have to deal with this weirdness? Why can it never be just... Am I still rounding here when I wasn't meant to? I'm still rounding here. Didn't I remove that round? Oh, I removed it in the deprecated code. I'm a idiot. Can I now have it centered on these points? Yes, I can. Okay, this is great. I hate the black circle. It looks ugly. But it's obvious what's going on. And that's worth something right now. Okay. If we can finish adding and removing dots today, that would be great. Line points are the cell subgrid 1/5 versus 1/4. Very similar rounding thing when I was fiddling with the pen tool. Yeah, I removed the round equals true parameter from here. You know what? I'm gonna see if it's safe to remove it from everywhere. If it's actually used anywhere in the code base. Because that seems really dangerous. I think what I meant to round was to a 1/10 of a pixel, not to a 1/10 of a cell. So I don't think it's actually being used anywhere here. It's used here, which is in the tool editor, where again, it's probably... And I remember seeing weirdness there before, and it probably was all due to this rubbish. Okay. Is there true here? No. No. Nope, nope, nope. Nope, nope. Nope, 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 nope. Here. But that's probably in the pen tool. And in the pen tool, again, it... Yeah. I don't know what I was trying to do here. I obviously built that code for the pen tool. But in the pen tool, you only have the center line and the edges, so 1/10 of a cell is not a problem. But I don't think it's actually what I use it for here either. So this rounding doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm almost tempted to completely remove it. Because it's almost certainly not what it was meant to do. Probably what I meant to do was have the rounding happen on the final pixel data out here. So we don't have a lot of decimals. If rounded to a 1/10 of a cell, that doesn't make any sense. Especially since that could introduce decimals, because the cells are 64, right? It would make more sense to round it to a 1/16 of a cell or something like that. I think I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to do something like this. If rounded undefined, then console.warn rounded deprecated argument passed rounded equals rounded. Something like that. And then we probably just want to do that from here. And cross our fingers it doesn't blow up. Okay. Alright. So, for deleting and... Yeah, that's not... Gotta be careful that I look at the right code. So for deleting and adding points. Point marker. Fucking delete that. So we should be able to do that simply by passing in a new waypoints object into update props. All right. So how are we going to handle our drag point timeout? So if closest p this dot cell point timeout id equals set timeout. What's the timeout value? Const cell select point timeout ms equals 1, 2, 3, 3000. And let's make it 2000 just for testing. And handle up clear timeout and clear timeout. And then here select point. Now in our core we have a little bit of a fudge factor. Yeah, so in I'm tempted to go back to using the drag tools because I've dealt with all of this stuff already. So in script, the drag stuff is already kind of managed nicely, including having this check of a minimum movement. So we have the long input, we have all of that stuff. Clear time, this long input up, long input timeout, handle input down, handle did input move. Yeah, we have this one, did input move. Although we can potentially still check this. Let's just do that. Do I have to pass something in? Did input move? No. So that should come just true or false, and that should let us know if it's time to clear the timeout yet. So I select this, press down. Okay. Press down. Okay. Did input move true? Right, down 1, 2, true. Down 1, 2, true. What is that relative to? Special input position is handle input down. And that doesn't make any sense. That does not make sense. Input move, input position. What? What? That doesn't make any sense. Aren't they in the same framework? Input down. Or this hand. This aborts the special input handling. Do I want to change that now? And what are the repercussions if I change that? Because this aborts the input handling. I basically have to redo this. I mean, sure, why not, right? Hmm. Hmm. Then we might as well put down. We can just do this here, right? Drag point. Let me think. Do we need to be this complicated? All I want to do is I want to be able to hold the button without having to be pixel perfect. That's basically it. So I think the only thing we need to worry about, actually, the only time we should cancel the hold is when we're moving it far enough to actually update one of the points. I think. So as I'm holding this, like, this movement does not drag the point, so that should count towards the timer. And that is via drag point. And drag point is get draw RC pause. So let next drag next pause plus this. All right. And to be honest, this should all be encapsulated somewhere else. It shouldn't be sitting on top of each other's things here. But what I'm going to do is console.log next pause. We're going to output both of those. We're going to output once again drag point. And we're going to quickly look up if there is a something for compare. But that's on RCs. I need a better library for that stuff. All right, let's just check. If I do this, and I do this, and then I move. Drag point next pause. Okay. So, I thought I had a library that did this, but apparently I don't. Since I don't know why I spend more time thinking about it than just doing it. All right. So if the positions are equal, then we're just gonna sit there, keep waiting. We don't move anything, nothing to do. Pause equal. Why does it go from 0 to 1 instead of true false? What did I screw up now? Hey Shelby. I've not met them in person, but we have regular Zoom calls and such. So for for a while I was developing heavily on this software, we had weekly Zoom calls, and now just occasionally we had a call a couple of days ago. So I don't know if that counts as personally. But yes, I communicate with them directly to sort out certain things and so on. And I play Sudoku, yes. Well, I need to test the app, right? So I basically have to play a couple of puzzles every time before I want to launch an update. And I try to do at least one of their videos every day. It's sometimes tricky with time, so I kind of usually watch them at double speed and so on. And then there's a couple of, I do the daily puzzles and a couple, you know, I mean, if you let me, I'd play Sudokus all day, but I try to cut down and keep it limited. Oh, single ampersand, that was the problem. Don't need anything else. So, yada yada yada, drag, equal true, and then eventually it'll go false. Okay, so that means if the position is, if these are true, if these are true, if we're, do we want to do anything? No. Or do we just want to skip this part? Because we still might want to do this. I'm just trying to think. If we have a drag point, we also have a selected point. And if our drag point hasn't moved, then our selected point won't change. So if we have, yeah, if the position is equal, we can just skip out. We don't need to do this because we have a drag point, which means we're already selecting a point, which means we don't need to do it. So right now, nothing is happening. Now we select the point, the timeout hit. But if I move, okay, then the timeout gets canceled. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we want. Let's see if the timeout makes sense. Oh, way too long. Wait. Yeah, that feels ancient, even though it's supposedly only 2 seconds. Why does it feel so long? 1,000. Wow. A second is a long time. 1, 2, boom. All right. So, if the timeout doesn't hit, basically we get to here. So now we want to render this point differently. Okay. Did I misspell that again? How do I always do that? So I should be able to do this if select point hits. So point handle, the index shouldn't have changed, right? So we should be able to do something like just copy this thing over. No, we're doing something else, right? We're doing this. And I need to move this stuff around. I know, I just want to get the basic functionality in there quickly now. So we definitely want to make this chunkier. We probably, do we need to enlarge the circle? Probably not, actually. And we want to make it redder. So we probably want to do something like this. Let's see. So do this. It was transparent. Select. Look, it still feels so long. So long. Maybe just because I'm testing. So if I do this, and then I move it. It immediately reverts. Okay. So then the question is, once we've done this, once we've done this, we do this, right? Now when we're releasing, we're checking if this is undefined first. If this is undefined, do stuff, else do other stuff. So if we're going mouse up, at this point, we're just gonna put a warn out, ready, point for delete. And we can, you know, add a cross to it or whatever. So boom, release, no, select point, mouse up, handle input up, did input move, this cell point, if this cell point equals undefined. If we have a drag point and the timeout is undefined, then we need, that's our flag that we have a point waiting to be deleted. Ready point for delete. Oh, yeah. And then moving shouldn't happen, right? So if this drag point and this cell point timeout ID equals okay, so if we have a drag point, if the timeout is undefined, return. So we are suspending drag handling in this circumstance. This is also fiddly. So no more highlighting until we do something else, which resets the whole thing, right? Except it didn't. And now, pressing it again, we want the delete. Boom. All right, so pressing it again, we want to delete. So input down. We actually don't care about any of this stuff. No, we do. We want to make sure we're actually hitting on this point, right? So before we're doing all this stuff, if this dot drag point equals this dot closest point and our timeout has expired, right? We want to delete a point. Delete drag point. And we don't want to do this other stuff. To 3, click, ready point for delete, delete drag point. Okay. And then it's already expired. All right. So we want to find path. Okay. Right, so that should give us which point we're deleting. 2, 3, ding. Index 1, and if I do this, index 7, okay. So then we should be able to do, we don't want to delete out of waypoints, right? So we want to create a new array from the path points, we want to splice out this point and one of those. Next path equals. Right. And then we want to update our waypoints prop with next path. And that should remove the point. Oh. It will delete all the points, of course. Where am I outputting special input point? These don't work. Next path. Why is this an area of 2 elements? Oh, because the splice actually modifies the element itself, and it returns the element we're removing, right? So that's what we want. I hate that I can call splice inline like that. Okay. And we need to remove the markers. How are the markers being created? Do we want to update all the markers? No. No, we do not. Yes, we do. Because we don't know what's coming in through here. So let's just do that. Let's just do it. Okay. This comes out of... Yep. Point handles dot length equals waypoints dot length. Point handles for each. We are just gonna reset here. This could be done better, I understand. Just default. Radius is default. And then path. Waypoints. Close enough. So that should reset all the handles. So let's delete this one. Boom. CSS not defined. Yada yada yada. Okay. Why did it not remove this one? Oh, because it broke down that point. Yeah. Okay. And boom. Delete. And oh, delete. It breaks the highlighting, which implies that I'm not excuse me, that I'm not resetting something correctly here. Yeah, so this dot drag point equals undefined. Wow. There was a prize for the most spelling mistakes in the shortest simple word. I would be a contender. So, delete this one. And this should be single button, left mouse button only. This should be compatible. Whoop. Ew, that was too quick. This should be compatible with mobile usage, right? Now, when we're detaching, we want to reset everything. And we probably want to reset everything when we're attaching as well, just for good measure. So, this dot drag point Yeah. Attach. This dot drag point was undefined. Find. And this dot whatever. Select point timeout ID. Right. And I'm sure I can probably get rid of half of that code. Delete. So now the hover will work again. No, actually I didn't fix anything like that. All right. So now the other question is, can I split the line? And it makes sense that I might not be able to split it close to the point. So if the points are so close that I can not select either one, I'd have to move them first to split the line. So right now, input down. So let's get rid of this stuff now. All right. So handle input down. If this drag point input down, if closest P, closest point on path. Okay. So we have closest point on path. Now I'm interested in the distance to the path. So handle input down. If we have a closest point, we don't want to do it. So this goes into an else here, or we just go to return here maybe. And distance to path works based on P should be an array, yeah. So dist to path. Dist to path. Let's find where else I used it. I used it rc dist. rc dist. rc hit test. Can we do an rc hit test here on ourselves? Yeah. I don't even know what I'm thinking about this. That's exactly what we want. We're gonna wait, what? We're gonna point or base or either or both. We probably need to do this though. Oh. rc dist rc if array if not array dot is array rc, then rc equals an array. All right, now it's array compatible. I don't have to think about it anymore. And this rc should do the trick. So we select. Now if I click somewhere without having... So if we're getting our RC, I think we can use the RC hit test. That should be close enough. Like if you can select the line, you can potentially, and that should not give us an RC hit test true because we've hit this return, right? So then we're basically doing the same thing, but sort of in reverse. And I think I'm gonna, because I want to do the same thing. I want to have a long press and then it gets a green circle and then you tap it and it adds a point or whatever, right? But for now, I just want to do it instantly. And we do this by, let's see, RC distance, right? RC distance gets the distance to a path, but gets the distance to a line. And it does calculate the point. Can I... Yeah, so this is if we're not on the line. This does not get us the actual point. So I'm going to look at one of my older code pens. Actually, I'm not going to look at a code pen. I'm going to look at my Twitter because I tweeted about it the other day. And that'll be faster than looking at my code pens. Because I remember it's a couple of pages back. So if I look at my Twitter, at the tweeters. So this was a algorithm I worked on a while ago just for, I always wanted to do a perfect collision detection, meaning it didn't care about frame rate. So it, you know, it just takes 2 frames and the 2 positions and it calculates where the ball would be, no matter how many times it bounces off how many colliders. And I was kind of trying to figure out the size of the object, the colliders, and how to calculate all that stuff. Anyway, it's full of pretty algorithms for line distances and so on. And I actually got those bits of code from there. But it doesn't just give us distance to line, it gives us closest point of line. And that's the thing I care about. And line, closest point of line, yeah. So we're just gonna borrow that. So we have distance on line, distance to path. Wait, what? Yeah, closest point on path, which isn't the same thing, right? So this calculates off all the edge points of the path, the vertices of the path. That's probably what I should call it. So closest point on line, and then the naming here is pretty wonky. It should probably be different, you know. Now we're just gonna letify this. So that gets us a point on a line, but it assumes the lines are XY thingamajigs. So I'm gonna change these to be arrays of points. So this is going to be x1, x2, sorry, x1, y1, and this is going to be x2, y2. So L2.x becomes x2, L1.x becomes x1, L2.y becomes y2, and L1.y becomes y1. X1, Y1, 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 and X1. Okay. And then P just becomes X and Y. This is another X1. Px just becomes X, and Py just becomes Y. Do we have any more dotteds? No. And when we return, we're going to return a 3-element array, which includes the U value, which can be handy at sometimes. Right, and then this would be x1 dx, y1 u times dy, and the U value. Sweet, arrays faster than objects, no problemo. Now we have closest point on line. Hey, that makes me want to rename this to closest vertex on line. Calc distance array. Calc distance array. Closest point on path. Is there something I can do to Closest point on path. I want to use the same name to mean two different things. Come on, naming suggestions. We have a path, and we have a function that either gives us the specific xy coordinate of the closest location on that path to a given point, or it gives us the closest one of the points that make up the path, i.e. the corner points. So either I change this to corner points or vertex, or I change this to maybe something like closest pause on line. Closest pause for position, right? And the position being kind of, hey, yeah, position, anything is a position, right? But points are only the corner points. Pause on path. So we have... do we need max distance here? No. Because it'll always return something. Nope. It's not 7 yet. Hey guys. Hey. Hey Poochie. Closest corner on line. Path. Closest corner. Corner. Makes it sound like it should be a square. Does position versus point work? What do you prefer? Corner and point, or position and point, where point is equivalent to corner? Closest vertex online. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, what it should be. The problem is I'm referring to them as points everywhere else. So this would be the first, like, because it's not a math library, you know. So I'm kind of loath to introduce the word vertex here instead of point to mean something different. Unless we use vertex as in the x for position here. I think I'll go with position because consistently everywhere else I've been using position to mean an arbitrary xy coordinate, like the mouse position, right? So I'm just going to call this P and that path. And now we're going to loop over the path. And we're going to do this a little bit more efficiently. So for let I equals 0 or 1, len equals path.length, I smaller than path.length. And we'll do this closest position on line. This doesn't actually give us the distance. Or is u the distance here? I'm not actually certain if u is the distance here. I think I can extract the distance from the u. Let me think. Is the u... Can I use the u to compare these? If the square length is 0, then we're returning the first point. The square length is 0, so the endpoints of the line are on top of each other. Fine. The u value is delta x plus delta y divided by square length. So the u value is the relative distance of the point on the line relative to the beginning point of each line. Can I use relative distances? I think I can. I think the smallest u value wins because we're comparing to the same dot. Let's just do this for now. So the line will be between, the point will be P, the line will be path I minus 1 and path I. I'm just going to print that out for now. And we're just going to execute that when we're clicking on a point that isn't one of the corner points. And now I'm using corner points. When we're clicking on a position on the line that is not... Okay, you get the idea. So RC hit test. So we're gonna... Whoops. We're gonna do if RC hit test. And then we're gonna output whatever this gets us. of RC and path. And I think these are already in the right coordinate thing. Should be an area by this point. So, nope, it died. Unexpected token, 149. I forgot to increment I. Something like that. Right, don't need the elements view anymore. Boom. Hit test 2 close, and I misspelled closest again. All my T's are missing. So U value is 1. So 1 means then, I believe, that it's beyond either side. So if I click here, but if I click here, now since I'm RC hit testing first, this should work. And since I can't click on the corners anyways, but it's probably not the right thing to do. So wait a second, why do I get a 0 there? Oh no, the 0 means we're above, the 1 means below. And okay, so this is only relevant if, okay, let's see if we can do this. If I double them back at an extreme angle, like that maybe, then clicking here, yeah, so clicking this now will get us between 0 and 1 for all of them. And then these numbers are not the distance from the line, they are how far along between the 2 points I'm hitting. So I cannot use those to find the closest point. Good to know. Okay, so it's not the U that I care about here. I need to then calculate the distance to line. Right. So distance to line of the point here is an array, yeah, so closest will fit, and the 2 points here. So now I'm gonna do something like this. Let P0 equals yada yada yada. P1 equals that. And this is gonna be P0, P1. And I know I'm breaking my nomenclature because here I called P0. Hurrah. Distance to line between P0 and P1. I'm consistently inconsistent. Okay, so let's get our Frankenline going here. So if I do this now, yeah, this is different. Distance to line. Distance to line. This is not working well. Distance to line. Distance to line. This should calculate the distance between point P, which is an array. Yeah, wait. No, of course. I'm passing in the closest point. Closest position on a line. No, I don't want a distance to the line now. No, yes, I do want the... I'm an idiot. Okay, we do it the other way around. We first find the closest position on a line. No, we first calculate the distance to a line. We find the closest line, and then we find the position on that line that's its closest. Or alternatively, because this calculation actually looks simpler than this one, especially since it calculates the distance, like this doesn't actually do... Because we could calculate the closest positions on each line and then find the distance to that point and then find the closest distance. Let's do that. Let dist equals distance of P and closest, and distance once unrolled things. My consistency is terrible. I just want a function that can throw in a .rc, .xy, array, 2 elements, whatever, and it'll just do the right thing. That would be great. So now we can calculate the distance to that point, find the closest one of them, and that should be correct. So the distance 0.003 because I clicked straight onto it, and even if these are really close, it will pick one or the other, depending on which one I click on. Okay, and then we'll just do the let the blah-de-da the pause on line let, and then we'll do the whole thing with the closest yada yada here. GT pause online, dist is that. If dist is smaller than closest dist, closest P equals pause on line. And closest distance equals dist. And then we can just return this. Just call this pause. No reason to get super verbatim here. Verbose, verbatim? What? All right. Yeah, my brain is slowing down, so I'm gonna finish this and then I'm gonna call it a day. So, closest position on path. What it doesn't give us is which line that point is on. And we kind of need both. We need both. So closest line. Or we want to do that. I mean, we can just do this, right? P0, P1, and then we can put this one through like that. So the first element will be the point, the second element will be the 2 line segments. Except we probably want to do this. And closest line, we probably we just want to spread that, right? So select this, click here. So now it'll give us a point, the exact point, and it'll be on this segment. And now, starting from that premise, we can do something like let P0, P1 equals that, like that. And we should be able to get the indexes out of these, right? So we should be able to do something like path.index of P0, nope, and double this up, P1, and segment from 2 to 3, from 1 to 2, and from 0 to 1. And if I do this, 3, 4, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And with that, we should now be able to insert a new point in those positions. So we can do this, IDX 0 equals that. IDX 1 equals that. And to be honest, all we need to do is we should round the point to whatever get draw RHC does, right? So we can do this and get draw RCP. So let new P equals get draw RCP. That should be right. I'm just gonna wing it right now. So splice. We need to insert a new element at P0. Just gonna output it first. Twice. I'm just gonna do it. Faster than looking up how to do it. So we're gonna put an element in. We're not gonna delete anything, and we're gonna insert new P. Right. So click here, click here. New P for initialization. New P. Yeah, okay. Look. Okay. Could have let me get away with that one, but you didn't. You chose not to. Yeah, and click. And it added an element here. So let's compare these. So the first element here. Okay. What? Slice. Splice. Did I not? Splice. Start. P0. P0. Oh, IDX 0. Sorry. P0. Insert a new element. All right. Up. So we didn't change this one. Didn't change this one. We inserted an ANA. And new P was an ANA. Okay. So that means get draw RC is not doing the right thing. Get draw RC position. Pos.x.y. Let x if is array pos x y equals pos if array is array pos. If not array my brain can't handle it. Anyone else? I'm not used to this. I don't like multi-line statements. Else if else if pos.x and pos.y not equals undefined, and post.y equals not equals undefined. And we'll do the same thing with an object reference equals post, which I'm not sure we can destructure this way, to be honest. We'll find out. We'll find out. No, we can't. We cannot. I used to be able to with Babel, but it's not part of JavaScript. And we can probably do this first, since that's the more restrictive version. All right. So, boom, no. Select, click. Path. Negative coordinates. Okay, that doesn't sound right. -1, -0.5. What? Get x, y to RC exact. Ah, shoot. These are already RC exact values. Shoot. Get draw RC. To draw RC. RC. R RC dot C R C. I feel so silly for doing this. RC RC. And not this. And then here we'll do this to draw RC of this, right? That way we've split out the RC handling from the handling of a raw input position. And now I need to update something to draw RC. There you go. So boom, click. Okay. So this new position here looks possible. So if that's all correct, if I've made everything work, if I've done everything correctly, all we would need to do now is update waypoints with this next path. So path.splice. So let next path equals path. Next path.splice. Next path. Yada yada. And now we should be able to split. Wait, what? What just happened? Wait a second. Where did this one go? Ah, because we added code to remove handlers, but we did not add code to add additional handles. Create point handle parts. Create point handle RC arcs. Create point handle RC arcs. Arcs. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess, but we can do it. Arcs. Arc. arcs. Or we just pass in what, because what do we have? No, we'll do this. So we'll do const r equals 0.2 arcs, and we'll do stroke equals this, yada yada yada. So stroke equals that, and stroke width equals that. Stroke width is that. Right. RC. And then R 0.2, and then R multiply equal svg.cell size. I think that's the only place where we're using it anyways. So instead of doing all of this, we can do this. This dot create point handle. What we got? RC. I think. Nope. Unexpected string. Unexpected string. Probably this one, maybe. 823. Unexpected string. Does this need square brackets? Unexpected string. JavaScript destructure assignment quoted name. Assignment. Ah, yeah, no, that doesn't work because we can't have a variable called that. So what we're gonna have to do is const width stroke width equals arcs stroke width for 1.5. I think that's what we have to do here. So boom. Undefined reading R equals cannot read properties of undefined reading R 823 undefined arcs equals that. Okay. Assignment to constant variable. Well, I should have learned this lesson a long time ago. Never do these as consts, because you're always going to want to edit them eventually. And then you're always going to have an extra reload and an extra edit before you figure it all out. Undefined set attribute 919 point handles turn. So we're not getting the reference back from this thing right now. Don't need that. Don't need that. So boom. Pos is not defined. 76 equals RC. Okay. So boom, 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 boom. Okay. So far so good. That disappears. It goes in there. It goes there. And now create point handle. We probably want to combine this into something that can update a point handle, but for now, this is what it's gotta be. Point handles dot length equals waypoints dot length. So what I'm going to do is while point handles dot length is less than waypoints dot length. So we're going to add until we reach the length, and then we clip the length. In fact, we're not just going to clip the length. We have to be a little bit more creative. So where are we doing the thing? Here we go. Console.warn add point handle. So this dot point handles dot push. I don't even know how they got removed, since we only crypt the array. So that was already a bit flawed. This dot create point handle, and RC in this case doesn't matter at all. Can we pass in something that's not an RC value? Create point handle RC. I think it's expected to be an array, so it's fine. We don't care what we're passing in. While point handles dot length is greater, delete point handle. And what we're gonna do is point handles let ph equals point handles dot pop, and we'll do a ph dot remove, and that way we shouldn't have anything stray sitting around. So if I click here and then click here, add point handle, and if I click here and here, delete point handle, okay. And then all we do is update the point handles here. Still don't know why that splits that way. So, wait, it's splitting. Is it splitting in front of the last? No, I'm misreading at start. The index at which to start changing the array. If greater than the length of the array, start will be set to the length of the array. If, in this case, so it will not be after that point. It will be before that point. The elements to add to the array beginning from start. So beginning from start. So if start is 0, the elements are inserted before. Okay. So that means our splice here needs to start at index 1. Right, so select, splice, move, select, delete, select, splice, delete. I mean, we might even leave it like that. It'll be a bit annoying that you can't have a straight line at an arbitrary and then put a subdivision, but then you probably don't need the subdivision anyways. All right, actually, this is not too bad. We can move them. I mean, we don't want the instant split. We want this to have also a delay, which could be a little bit of a pain in the neck to implement. We're gonna put a big fat to do here. To do add delay before splicing in new point. Okay, so let's just do a quick test with a little bit of the spam removed. I think up and down both had event handlers here. Did input move? I don't think I'm using this. Yeah, this is deprecated and doesn't actually do anything. Ready point for delete. Yeah, that's still happening. So, splice it, move the point, change my mind, delete the point. Look what a nice array we have. We can just change it now. What a nice Ranban line, you know. I mean, for certain lines, it almost makes sense to split, align it to the centers of cells. But I think this is rough enough that it's easy enough to align things and edit things quickly. Now, one thing we don't have right now is being able to drag the whole thing. I don't know if that's something we need, though. Like, should I be able to select this and then just immediately drag all of it? So if we're implementing the delay to splice, then we could have a grab. Basically, the moment I press and move. So basically, the way we're dragging on closest point, we could drag on any point, basically. So if closest point, so if this is false, we could do drag whole object if not dragged from point. So we basically just drag all the points put together. I think that would be fine. The only tricky bit would then be snapping. But I think we'd snap it because because normally you would drag from wherever you grab the line, right? No, we can translate the mouse position to the nearest grid position, then drag it relative to where we pressed it, and that should just snap correctly, and all the points should be snapped. It's not super required, but if I want to go full-blown, you know, vector editing tool, then maybe that's how it should be. And then obviously I can reuse a lot of the tooling for other objects, because I definitely want to be able to drag cages that way. And at the very least, I want to drag yeah. What about them whisper lines, right? I want to be able to drag, and so if I do this, so here it won't do the clipping. It only does the clipping in the main rendering. I don't think that's a problem. And if it is, I'll just add it later. Like crop geek dots, I want to grab this one and just drag it around. I wonder if then showing the grid makes sense. For cages, it won't make sense. Because here, when we drag the cage, it will be a whole cell only. But for these other kinds of objects, it will make sense. Now the arrows I haven't quite figured out yet. They're managed as separate elements here at the moment. But we'll get to it, we'll get to it. But I'm quite happy now with the grid, these drag points. The UI needs some improvement. So I added a point there. That needs cleaning up. There's obviously some issues here. 792. Undefined reading length, line component update props. 780. 780. Update props. For each key. 780. 792. While point handles.length is smaller than waypoints.length. Point handles. I guess if point handles, it's possible that it's trying to update props on something that's not currently selected. Let's just output that for a sec. But I had a line selected. Not sure what the issue was. It feels so long, even though it's what, 750 milliseconds. Why does it feel so long? Wait, why does detach handles happen here? What causes attach and detach handles? Apply style. Oh yeah, of course. Because I'm not presuming that I'm staying on the same element, and this puzzle happens to only have line elements, so it's a little confusing. Alright, I didn't get the error again though, and I don't think what I did was mitigation for the error. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? Huh. It should be a lot easier to edit these kinds of puzzles now, though. And that's kind of the point. Let's have a quick look what it looks like if you try to double them up in the same cell. So imagine you want something like this. It joins them, but then it leaves. Nope, not this one. This one. That one back. I need to start like using these tools a bit myself as well. So if we do this, and let's say this goes up here, this goes to here, and for these couple of cells, they all share that space. I think that's quite easy to edit like that. And more than 3 in a cell, you probably have other problems with your layout. Ah, now we can make fancy thermoses as well, because it's using the same editing mechanic. Only thing it can't do right now easily is adding a point beyond the end. So you have to add the point before and then move the end outwards, which is a little inconvenience, and it's a sort of thing I'd rather fix, that I'd like to have done properly. 1, 2, 3, 4 cell. Yeah, that's actually not possible. So if I do this and this, that's a valid thermos, right? Can we change thickness here already? Yeah, so thickness works as well, even on these lines. Yeah. So for example, here you might want to do it a little thinner, putting 3 in 1 cage. Yada yada yada, right? So the thermos is over that line, which isn't really great. Oops. Wait. Cannot. 941. 941. Point handles, closest index. Reading 0. Point handles. Closest index. Point handles. Attach handles, detach handles. Attach handles, detach handles. This happens after attach handle. 941, huh. Can't read it proper. Point handles itself is undefined. Ah, because of the timeout, alright. If point handles. So between, yeah, so detach handles needs to clear the timeout. Well, first of all, we definitely want to do this, but we also want to clear the timeout. This needs to happen on detach handles. Right. Yeah, no. Yeah. What was I just looking at? Ah, yeah. So I should know. If I'm grabbing a point, because it wants to change selection there. That's a bit annoying. But anyway, so now you could move that point, and now you could cosmetically fix it, and that's kind of the point. All right, thanks for stopping by, Mark. I gotta go as well. Even for lines showing the grid is not really required. Yeah. Might make it optional. Might be a setting. Oops. Also the sensitivity here, like I have a little bit of margin around the line, which if it's a thick line might make it hard to select something else in that cage. So that margin should maybe only apply to very thin lines. Let me have a quick look. Line selection happens via RC hit test. We have a minimum thickness. Line thickness. RC distance is less than line thickness. RC hit test. Line thickness. Minimum thickness. Props thickness. All right, that's the last thing I'll look into. It seems a little off, to be fair. So we'll start with the props thickness, the minimum thickness, and then the final line thickness. For a fat line, the final line thickness should be so it's 20. No, it's 22. RC hit test. I don't know how much it's probably super spammy. Oh, okay. Why is the thickness 20 here? When it's clearly... When I clearly set it to 22. Oh. Oh, it's 20 here. Where did I get the 22? Oh, that's value, not... Oh, I'm an idiot. Okay, so that's the line that's 20 thick. Minimum thickness 6.4. So RC distance times cell size. That seems off. That seems off. Whoops. So 20. RC distance. And now it's below 20. Yeah, so this line is supposed to be 20. The cell is supposed to be 64 across. I have a feeling something doesn't add up here. So the layer is actually called arrows, even though, you know. Stroke width 20. Stroke width is 20. So if I change this to 64, it should be exactly as wide as a cell. And it is. So 20 is roughly a third of a cell. Ah, I'm an idiot. Distance, the thickness should be half the thickness. So it should be times 0.5. That should be it. Yeah, that's why. I'm using the full thickness. So now it might be harder to select thin things, but that's what the minimum thickness is for. So if I make this 20 now, and then select the cage, it's much easier to add something to the cage, right? So for example, so now if I click here, it'll select the line. Selection overrides this. But it's much easier to select the point now. Except, yeah, the selection comes first before the line option. So I have to think about that a little bit. All right, good progress. I think the line tool is coming along nicely. And I think manipulating lines and arrows is one of the big weaknesses of some of the other tools. So I think it's quite important that I get it right with this tool. So I think then very soon I'm going to start focusing on the inspector to editing colors and other properties. There's a couple of question marks still. For example, with lines, I'd like to have the points shown to be editable as numbers, but I might do that instead of doing it with a UI, just allow raw JSON editing kind of thing. Yeah. And we did a couple of manipulations on the main script, so we have to be a little bit careful. It's gonna give us a bit of merge pain. So maybe we don't want to actually do that here. Yeah. Maybe we don't want to do this. Let's see where this has been done. So if I copy this out of here and tool pen, yeah, I'm gonna remember that. Sure, right? I'm gonna remember that. Yeah. I'm gonna revert these. Revert this one. And this one. Just so I don't get merge issues. Alright. So, what do we call this? Line point editing. Alright. Then we'll switch to master. Place that. And open the pen tool. And get rid of that little true here. Ooh, nope. Do this. I think that's what we're gonna do. Patch. And what we're gonna call this? Deprecate. Deprecate. Don't know if deprecate is the right word. Rounding. Before I do this, let me make sure that this doesn't screw the pen tool. Yeah, I don't think it does. I have a to-do item for the pen tool. I really need to... did I not? Render grid lines. Remote loads convert render grid lines. Really? Where's that being called? RC to path data. Wait a second. Oh, because it passes an index in. Alright, I don't think we need the deprecation notice. I think it's fine to just ignore that. I think it's fine. Because it screws up when we're... Oh, that would have caused errors. Hey, Penguin. I'm just shutting down. That will cause errors because going through that loop on one element rounded would have evaluated to false, like for 0, and then for the remainders to true. That... Ugh. That could have been a nasty bug that's been active for ages. Alright, I think that makes the most sense then. Let's just get rid of it. It didn't make any sense. It was done in the wrong way. Like, it makes sense for the final result, for what goes in the SVG, but not at this level. Deprecate, right? Deprecate. Well, the problem is if you're solving a bug that you didn't know you had, usually what ends up is that you're breaking some behavior that depends on that bug. At least in my experience, you always end up like that. Ah, and I haven't been on Master in a while, so let's update the puzzle database while we're at it. And then we can deploy too. And things will be happier for it. Nope. Close. Is this test data that I still need? Maybe. Don't think so though. Wow, look at that. Bunch of puzzles need to be added. And deploy. All right, that's it for today. I'm kind of happy with the progress actually. So now we can actually start seriously going into kind of the finer detail. Well, before I do that, I actually want to add the remainder of the groups. I mean, arrows are still a massive mess because figuring out which elements in the SVG belong to any particular element is tricky. Yeah, but I'm probably gonna have to stop working on the editor for a few days because I need to set up a new server on Amazon because my existing server is gonna have a bit of a... apparently it has a hardware issue and they're gonna shut it down. So I gotta make sure there's another server running. And I need to launch the current version on test into production. And to do that, I need to update how the letter hotkeys are working, because right now they're a bit of a mess. Cascade removal workarounds. Yeah. Yep. Let me just also update SudokuPad, and then we can switch back to the editor. I'll probably work on the editor again tomorrow. I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of progress. You see something, and it's also something that a lot of people will get use out of it. And that's, to be honest, the most fun to work on. The more people benefit from what you're doing, the more, well, at least for me, the more fun it is to work on it. And we have our editor back. Get rid of the pen tool. And yahoo! Ah, yes. I'd like to actually do the cage moving and the object moving. I think that'll be nice. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out. As usual, subscribes on YouTube really help out. Obviously, if you can, there's the Patreon, patreon.com/SvenCodes. I'm working on a little shop in the moment. There's only a mug, so I'm not actually going to promote that just yet. But all the links are on SvenCodes.com, so you can check that out. Appreciate the support. Lots of updates coming. I'm working hard on the editor. There's going to be a big update to SudokuPad once the editor is ready. Maybe some structural changes. I have to figure out how I'm going to do all that. And hopefully a lot of tools for puzzle setters to get more puzzles to you guys. More nice, good-looking puzzles. That's what I'd like to achieve. So that's what I'm working for. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Take care.